late game.
Mark Logan on the near side. Stephon Adams flanking him. The temperature at game time is 81. The humidity is 76%. Nick Lowry will be going to the Pro Bowl. Lowry in his 11th year, and it may have been his best of all. Underway from Miami with the kick to the goal line, where James Pruitt goes back to take it and brings it back out to the 14-yard line. So Kansas City doing a good job on kick coverage. And here comes the Miami offense, led by Dan Marino with his 21 touchdowns. It's the 8th time in 8 years he has thrown 20 or more, tying a mark held by Johnny Unitas. Sammy Smith and Tony Page, and Page is a very key man, a blocker and receiver. Duper and Clayton, the Marks brothers, the wideouts. Edmonds will be going to the Pro Bowl as an alternate. And Webb and Sims have really done a job on the left side of the line, the two rookies. First down from the 14-yard line. Sammy Smith for a gain of about 3 in his second season out of Florida. It'll be 2nd and 7. Neil Smith, no relation, makes the stop. Smith, Dan Salimua is a terrific nose tackle, and Bill Moss on the other side. Martin, Percy Snow is the #1 pick out of Michigan State. Hackett and Thomas had 20 sacks, the linebackers. The corners are great. Lewis and Ross, they'll both go to the Pro Bowl. Porter and Cherry are the safeties. Second down and 7. Marino hits Page. Until Page got hurt about halfway through the season, a lot of the Dolphins thought he was their most valuable player, not for what he has done running the ball, but blocking and catching it, and there's an example.
Let's pick up Page, and Marino will look for Page as always the checkoff man. He is a tough football player, a hard blocking football player. When he was out, the Dolphins suffered. With him in the lineup, they've got their offense rolling once again. Keep your eye on Page. He will be in a lot of the action today, both as a blocker and as a receiver.
First down, Miami at the 25. Sammy Smith picks up about 4. He takes it to the 29-yard line. And this state, of course, has turned out some great backs. You've got Emmitt Smith, the Florida star, now in Dallas, and Sammy, who played at Florida State. Good rookie year last year, and he's helped to solidify their ground game this season.
One of the interesting things to watch for here in the beginning of this game is the cat and mouse game that Kansas City is going to play with Derek Thomas, number 58. He's now on the line of scrimmage at the bottom of your screen right there. He of the 20 sacks. He's against Richmond Webb right here. I think that's a matchup that Kansas City might want to get him out of.
On 2nd and 6, Marino off the fake, drops it off to Page on a play that's worked so successfully all season, and does so here again. 2 catches for him. Percy Snow makes the tackle. It's close to a first down, and it is a first down.
You know, when you talk to the defensive coordinator, Bill Cowher of Kansas City, he will tell you that when Marino wants to go deep, he looks for Duper. When he wants to go to Clayton, he looks for the tough catch underneath. And when he wants to check off, he looks around, he finds Page. But both head coaches, interestingly enough, Don Shula, when you talked to him, he said, this kid is tough. He brings toughness to our ball club. We talked to Marty Schottenheimer last night, asked him about Page. He said, he brings toughness to their ball club. Tony Page.
Back-to-back first downs for Miami. Garrett Limbrick is in the game, set in the slot to the left. Marino back to throw, and Marino's first toss is too high, intended for Duper, who was blanketed by Kevin Ross. It'll be 2nd and 10.
I don't think it's too early to talk about the turnover ratio either of Kansas City. They led the league far and away with plus 26. 20 interceptions. They have great cornerbacks in Kevin Ross, Albert Lewis. They play man for man. They play it tough. They play it tight. And usually when you get a man for man team, they don't get that many interceptions. But this team is plus 26, far and away the leader in the National Football League. They have lived by it, and it's paid off handsomely.
2nd and 10. Page is back in. Marino sends Duper left and Clayton to the right, and puts Ferrell Edmonds, the tight end, in the slot to the right. And underneath he hits Clayton, and Mark Clayton has another Miami first down as they've taken the opening kickoff and moved it out to the 48-yard line. Albert Lewis, the corner, and Dan Saliamua make the stop.
Take a look at it again. We talked about Clayton's toughness underneath. Almost a little bit of a pick play, but now he sees in the inside. Saliamua is there. He pulls up, and Marino is right there with it. And Dan, you're so right. They are moving Derek Thomas from side to side, trying to get him free, trying to get him one-on-one.
Dolphins at the 47-yard line. Smith breaks the tackle, takes it to the 50. You know, I'm thinking, Dan, in a way, this typifies the change in Miami's offense. Maybe in the past they would throw the bomb, they'd score quickly, but here they are moving very methodically and quite satisfactorily.
You haven't even seen a fly pattern yet, and a lot of times in the past, without a Sammy Smith in the backfield, the Dolphins more often than not would be in a 4 wide receiver set. I mean, you've seen them in shotgun formation before on first down, but oh, what a different team this is with that man running the ball and the addition of 2 outstanding rookie offensive linemen on the left side, Sims and Webb.
2nd and 7 at the 50, 10:30 to go, first quarter with no score. Sammy Smith tries the right side this time, picks up about 3 more. The ball came loose after the tackle. Lewis Cooper, Dan Saliamua in on the tackle, and it will be 3rd and about 4.
Old man Webster. Mike Webster. They have already got the pedestal waiting for him in Canton, Ohio. All we have to do is put the finishing touches on the bust. One of the great centers ever in the National Football League. A reserve role now with Kansas City. What a player he was.
3rd and 4. They go to their 4 wideout set, and Jensen is in the backfield with Marino. Pruitt and Martin are the extra wideouts with Duper and Clayton. Marino has to step up and get sacked at the 50-yard line by Neil Smith. You know, so much attention paid to Derek Thomas this year and all his sacks. You tend to overlook Neil Smith, who's had a great season.
That was just fine coverage downfield. Marino had time on a 3rd down and 4 to get to a receiver to just top coverage. And here is Neil Smith coming to the outside. Marino looks, can't find anyone. The block is pretty good by Mark Dennis.
Washington sees he has an opportunity and takes advantage of it. But the poor snap from Beatty, and Kurt Schottenheimer, whose job was a bone of contention in Cleveland when he was coaching there for his brother, is enjoying a sweet season indeed.
2nd and 7. As word again goes nowhere. Brian Sauché wraps him up. Third and long as we detail the Kansas City offense. Steve DeBerg playing with that fractured finger. Incredibly, 23 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions this season. He has Barry Word with him. We'll see Okoye a lot as well. Bill Jones. McNair comes in on 3rd down. Thomas and Page, the wideouts. Hayes, the tight end. And the Chiefs, like the Dolphins, have 2 rookies in the interior, Zott and Grunhard. McNair is in the game on 3rd and 12. They like to go to McNair a lot on 3rd down. This time it is picked off by Louis Oliver. Flag is down at the 33 as Oliver takes it back to the 40. Penalty marker.
Flag came in well after the ball was intercepted. DeBerg is indicating it's against Miami.
Defensive pass interference. Defense.
Boy, they might actually even be calling that on Louis Oliver. Let's look at it. The ball's going to be going away from us at the top of your screen. There's Oliver, and that is interference. That's a good call. He levels Rob Thomas, the chief receiver.
Defense. First down.
Well, the crowd here at Joe Robbie Stadium is booing lustily, but I don't think there's much doubt about it when you looked at it from that angle. Oliver got there way in advance of the football and dropped the Kansas City receiver, Rob Thomas.
He flattened Thomas. A couple of counts before the ball was thrown.
First down, Kansas City. No score. 7:34 remaining in the opening quarter. DeBerg on 1st and 10. Throws it underneath, and it's dropped by Barry Word. That's the one thing the Kansas City running backs do not do very well. Neither Okoye nor Word really catches the ball with much effectiveness. Here's the Miami defense now. And we'll keep an eye on Sean Lee, who's been in traction, the nose tackle. That's Oglesby getting the start in the middle, the rookie, flanked by Turner and Cross, who's their sack man. Griggs, Offerdahl's terrific. Going to the Pro Bowl again. Odom came over from Indy, and the venerable Hugh Green. McKyer, the former Niner. J.B. Brown celebrating his 24th birthday. Williams and Oliver are the safeties. 2nd and 10 at the 32-yard line. Barry Word for the 29-yard line. It's going to be 3rd and 6. Hugh Green in his 10th year out of Pittsburgh. He's trying to get to the Super Bowl and trying to hook up with his old running mate at Pitt, Ricky Jackson, now playing with the Saints. He's been around that long.
Kansas City really likes to go with the play action, but if you can control them on 1st and 2nd, you get them into a situation that Miami has them in now where they'll probably come out of their shotgun. There's no reason to go with play action because Miami's thinking nothing but pass.
3rd down and 6. Chiefs come up with 4 wideouts. And their 3rd down specialist, McNair, number 48. They send McNair out into the pattern. It's thrown underneath to an open Stephon Page. 1st down, takes it to the 10. Jarvis Williams makes the stop, and not often will you see a man of that caliber, Page, get that open. 19-yard pickup.
Well, a little bit of action for Page to break underneath. Not a pick play per se, but it was a crossing pattern, and a couple of Dolphin defenders got all tied up in it, and Stephon Page, right out, he came free over the middle, wide open. And plenty of time to get the ball to Stephon Page by DeBerg. That's one that could have drawn a flag, that crisscrossing pattern.
It's 1st and 10. They could get a 1st down without a touchdown. Barry Word just inside the 9. 5:50 remaining in the 1st quarter with no score. Offerdahl makes the stop, and this one pretty much beginning the way we expected it to. A lot of running and a fast and rapidly paced quarter. Let's take a look at DeBerg handing off with that wrapping.
Yeah, here's the one where he makes it with his left hand. Barry Word moving to the offense's right. That necessitates the quarterback using his left hand, getting it in there. A good, clean exchange by Steve DeBerg, who tells us it's not really a problem.
On 2nd and 8, DeBerg fires, and it's incomplete. He was able to drill it in between, tried to get it through to Stephon Page, and Louis Oliver with the coverage. And a little barking going on.
On 3rd down and 8, as we look once again, DeBerg looking all the way for Stephon Page, and that'll attract the defense much more quickly. And good coverage. But the 4 wide receivers come in, and also coming out of the backfield, McNair, number 48. They like to use him down in this area.
In this area, as you can see, once inside the 20, the Chiefs have bogged down this year. They've gotten it into the end zone only 4 times out of 10. The league average better than half. Play clock ticks down. They get it away on 3rd and 8, and DeBerg fires into the end zone, and it's knocked down by Paul Langford, number 44. The longtime Dolphin defensive back, who's now in a reserve role, plays in the nickel and dime defense on a pass intended for Stephon Page.
Actually, Langford sits in the middle as the spy. If he does not get a hand on this ball, this is a Kansas City touchdown. Look how open the receiver is in the end zone. Page is standing right there. An extremely alert play by Paul Langford, or Kansas City has a lead in this ball game.
Nick Lowry comes in to kick. He's had a sensational year. 27-yard attempt. He made his last 21 during the regular season. The streak will not be extended or ended today. Postseason doesn't count along with the regular year. Doesn't matter. Miami, where Kansas City, thanks to a Nick Lowry field goal, has assumed a 3-0 lead with 5:04 to go in the quarter. Pruitt and Logan are back to receive for Miami. And Lowry, who had not kicked a touchback since very early in the season, booms this one deep enough into the end zone that Miami will have to take it at the 20. Marino and the Dolphins taking over with 4:54 to go in the first inning in the first quarter. The Miami Dolphins trailing Kansas City 3-0, taking over, and Marino on 1st and 10 lines up in the shotgun from the 20-yard line. Good protection and incomplete. The coverage was excellent. Sammy Smith down the sideline, covered by Kevin Porter.
It's good coverage again, and Marino had to hold on to the ball so long, Dan, that he really got planted about this point with the coverage right on him. That's Kevin Porter. Marino has to let go of the ball right here. He feels the sack, and he does not have time to get the completion. But more importantly, Bill Moss really laid one on Dan Marino.
2nd and 10. They don't go to Smith very often, but Kansas City has to be mindful of him. He caught a 53-yard touchdown pass last week against Indianapolis. Now Smith, in a more conventional sense, runs for 13 and gets caught by Porter again. So Porter covering whether he's receiving or running.
Boy, what a good open field tackle by Kevin Porter. Wide open at the line of scrimmage. Right behind Keith Sims, the left guard. Richmond Webb on the left side. You see Sims working right there against Moss, makes him disappear. And watch this hit right at the belt buckle by Porter. I mean, right on the hip, and he puts Sammy Smith down. Sammy Smith might have taken that the distance.
1st down Miami. They have 4 in the quarter. Here is Smith again, and this time he goes nowhere. He runs into big 97, Dan Saliamua, along with Leonard Griffin. They converge to make the tackle. He is probably, Saliamua, maybe the plan B pickup of all time to this point, as Kansas City took a chance, opted to bring him over, and in his 4th year he has really done a whale of a job in the middle.
Well, he's allowed them to move Bill Moss, who for years was a nose tackle, let him play outside. Saliamua has really anchored, and if you're going to play a 3-4, you have no chance of stopping the run without a real man playing nose tackle.
They plucked him from Detroit. Now this is Logan carrying for the first time. He takes it out to the 39-yard line. Saliamua and Cooper in on the tackle. Mark Logan, the former Bengal, in his 4th year out of Kentucky.
Well, one of the guys to watch is this man, Derek Thomas, one of the fine draft choices of all time. You see Harry Galbraith, the right guard, came over and puts the trap first and then the hook on Thomas. When you get 20 sacks, people are going to watch your every move. And there, of course, a look at Richmond Webb, the 9th player taken in this draft, and a fine selection for Miami.
Kansas City is in what they call their 6-man defensive back setup.
And on 3rd and 4, it's Mark Duper making the catch, picking up the 1st down, and the crowd goes Duper, Duper. Kevin Ross makes the tackle after a 12-yard gain. 1st down Dolphins.
Good read by both Duper and Marino. The Chiefs went into his own defense. Now watch Duper. Now he eases up right here. Marino puts it down low, but he gets the 1st down out of it as Lloyd Burris was stepping in, and he gets it right between the 2 defenders.
Looks like when Duper, Frank Stutter stepped there a little bit, he really confused Ross. Ross almost came to a halt out there on his coverage.
1st down Miami at the 49 of KC. 2 minutes to go in the quarter. 3-0 Chiefs. Fake to Smith. Marino has to step up, and Marino goes down at midfield. There's a flag down in the secondary. Neil Smith made the tackle and draws the flag.
Yeah, they called Lewis for making contact beyond that 5-yard zone where you're allowed to make a hit.
For the record, our referee is Pat Haggerty as Mark Logan. Picks up 8, takes it to the 37. Percy Snow makes the tackle. Mark Logan has played in a postseason game in this stadium. The only one played in this stadium, the Super Bowl 2 years ago, San Francisco and Cincinnati. He was a Bengal then.
Oh, what a good run by Logan that time. That's a play that's intended to hit inside the trap. They tried to trap Bill Moss. It wasn't there, and Logan bounces it to the outside very alertly. That's just an 8-yard pickup for a running back that, if he just ran in there with his eyes closed, pounds out for 1 or 2.
2nd and 3. 50 seconds to go in the quarter. 3-0 Kansas City. Can't get out of the backfield, and Derek Thomas, who had 20 sacks with a tackle for loss is how that one is ruled. If you don't follow football that closely, if you tackle a runner in the backfield, it is not a sack.
Playing in front of the home crowd, if you will. He went to South Miami High School. Now watch this. Page is trying to put the block. He got a shoulder under Page, and we talked about what a good blocker Page is, and he is that, but Derek Thomas just beat him on that play. Got low and came up under the block.
3rd down and 6. Marino fires and incomplete. A little miscommunication there as Mark Clayton had cut the pattern off. Marino overshoots him, and that's the way the period will terminate. Kansas City 3, Miami nothing after 1. We'll be back with the AFC wildcard playoff game after this commercial message in a word. Start the 2nd quarter in Miami. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Dierdorf, and Miami at least will line up to attempt what would be a 57-yard field goal by Pete Stoyanovich. The blocker supreme Lewis to the outside. He has kicked a 59-yarder, and indeed he puts it up, and it is good. Oh, yeah. An all-time NFL playoff record. 58-yard field goal for Pete Stoyanovich.
That's tougher off a natural surface than it would be off artificial.
And that did not hit the crossbar and bounce over either. That kick would have been good from at least 2 yards farther away.
Sequels with a good hold of a good snap. It takes 3 to put one through from a distance like that. You have to have the snap low, and that enables the kicker to get the ball off more quickly because you have to kick it lower. Jeff Julin Lake, the snapper.
Eddie Murray of the Detroit Lions had held the record. The longest postseason field goal in NFL history had been 54 yards. This one is 58.
Oh, I love those guys when they make them.
28 years later as a head coach, still showing the emotion.
Alex Karras somewhere just said, I can't believe this. What's this game coming to?
Tom Dempsey saying somewhere, oh, I wonder if this guy's going to break my record.
Yeah.
I remember that 59-yarder against the Jets, the Giants Stadium, and the gale wind was blowing that day. Nothing of the sort today. That was a beautiful execution on the part of all 3 involved.
And a great deal of confidence shown by Don Shula and Pete Stoyanovich. Knowing your kicker, he must have had a good week.
A great week.
And the ball keeps
second quarter. Stojanovich's kick taken 1 yard deep in the end zone, and they don't know what to do with it. And Fred Jones, after hesitating, brings it out to the 15-yard line. Fred Jones didn't know whether to come out, stay in. Todd McNair was trying to give him some advice.
Well, maybe McNair did not give him concise advice.
Now, you can't have indecision back there as a return man. You're either going to go or you're not going to go right here. And he should have got the information right there. He's being told to stay in, but just screaming at him. And now he sees that he's in trouble.
Well, I take it back.
Loses a full second and a half on that.
I want to take it back about not getting concise advice. McNair was right there saying, stay in the end zone. And he came out anyway.
And then Jones had the presence to know once he was out, hey, you got to keep going. Once you're out, you're out. You can't take it back in. DeBerg on first down. Open is Page, and Page out to the 47-yard line. A gain of 32. J.B. Brown with the tackle.
Play action once again, and Steve DeBerg is a master of this. Anyone will tell you this around the league. He hides the ball as well as anyone who's ever gone with the play action. Let's take a look at it once again. This is how you get so wide open. There is the play action. He puts that sore hand in there. It takes a pounding, but coming from the opposite side of the field, Stephon Page wide open, close to midfield.
33-yard pickup, first down. at the 47-yard line. Great protection. Open over the middle is Rob Thomas. He makes the catch, and Rob Thomas has developed into a good possession receiver. 14-yard gain, and the son of a former teammate of yours, Frank.
Aaron Thomas and I played with the Giants for 3 years back in the 60s. Aaron much bigger than Rob. As a matter of fact, Aaron about 6'3" and had great speed. Rob doesn't have the height nor the great speed, but he works so well under coverage. Finds the open spot, and he is tenacious. He'll fight for the football, and he comes up with another first down.
1st and 10, Kansas City at the Miami 38-yard line. Here's Barry Word. He gets 3. 2nd and 7.
You know, guys, one of the real problems with Kansas City as we take a fabulous look here at Joe Robbie Stadium. One of the problems with Kansas City's play-action passing game as far as Miami is concerned, and we've seen some wide-open people, Frank, is the fact that Oliver and Williams, they're two great safeties, are great run support guys, big, strong, physical guys who are going to be quick to bite on any sort of a play action. They're one of the real reasons Miami has improved dramatically on their run defense. That also translates into open receivers on a play action pass.
There's the play action again.
2nd and 8. And DeBerg tried to jam it into Alfredo Roberts, the tight end. He was blanketed by Hugh Green.
I'll second that, Dan. When you have safety men like the Miami Dolphins, Williams and Oliver, they love to hit, and they're going to be looking at that quarterback. If they even smell that he's going to hand it off, they're going to be up there trying to fill right behind the line of scrimmage. And nobody hides it quite like DeBerg. Let's take a look at that once again. Puts it right in there and pulls it out. The danger of that, of course, is you might bump it against the running back and lose the football, and particularly since DeBerg is almost one-handed out there.
3rd and 8 at the 35. Game tied 3-3 early in the 2nd quarter. DeBerg to the 30-yard line. Page makes the catch, but he's short of the first down and slow in the rising. Tim McKyer popped him after Page makes his 3rd catch of the game and pays for it. Page off to a good start today and had 2 terrific games last year when these two teams met twice. And Kansas City won both times. Gets hit by McKyer, who made a few headlines this week.
He really did. There is Tim McKyer, the former 49er, who is like a lone voice in the wilderness here in Miami. Don Shula's team always seemed to characterize him more stoic than anything else. I think this might be a case where Page fell on the football. It's not a vicious hit by McKyer, but when he goes down, it looks like Stephon Page fell right onto the football, especially on his right side, on that right shoulder area. See him go down right there.
See when you hit that elbow on the surface and you have the weight of the other player on top of you, it's kind of scary.
The best case scenario would be he's got the wind knocked out, and the worst case would be he fell on that arm and somehow did some damage to the shoulder joint. But Tim McKyer, to get back to McKyer, what a vocal player he has been, especially this.
It's Stojanovich's kick.
The long two, by the way.
DeBerg under heat throws. It picked off at the 11-yard line by Jarvis Williams.
Well, you could say it's better to miss field goal.
Yep, same as a pooch punt.
Williams should have dropped the ball. Jarvis Williams would have been a lot better off if he wouldn't have caught that.
Sure, otherwise it would have come out to the line of scrimmage.
He's still celebrating. I don't think he's figured that all out yet.
Now you're asking the impossible. I'd have caught the ball too. That's an instinct. The Dolphins would have been better served, though.
12:06 left, first half in Miami. Kicking a 47-yard field goal in the opposite direction. They opt for a 4th down conversion, don't get it. Miami has it at the 12, first down. Marino. Taken by the tight end, Edmonds at the 20. He wrestles his way to the 23 and enough for a first down.
Dan Marino giving us his version of a Randall Cunningham, rolling out, sprinting out, putting pressure on the secondary until somebody comes in. It was the big tight end, Farrell Edmonds. He was looking deep for Clayton. Clayton well covered, and he pulled up and drilled one to Edmonds.
The guy who made a great play that time was Derek Thomas, because I think Tony Page there was the intended receiver. Derek Thomas smothers him and then goes after Edmonds. And Mark Clayton, you can see judiciously decided, I don't think I'll take on Derek Thomas.
1st and 10 up at the 23-yard line. Sammy Smith out to the 26. While Smith has solidified their rushing game this season, his average per carry is a rather ordinary 3.7. And we can tell you this AFC playoff game is being brought to you by Akron. Newest blimp in the Goodyear fleet, hovering above Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami. Game tied 3-3. 2nd down and 7. Dolphins at their own 27-yard line. Smith gains 1. Derek Thomas comes up to make the tackle with 10.5 minutes to go in the half.
Smith opened the season with 159 yards against New England, and I think everyone for the next 2 or 3 weeks were thinking that Miami just had turned around and they were all of a sudden a running team, but that carried over for quite a while. But he came back at the final game last week with 108 yards against Indianapolis. Well, they can run the ball so much better than they have over the past few years.
You saw the yards per carry. The Dolphins as a team averaged 3.7. The league average this year was 4.1. 3rd and 6 up at the 27. And it's caught by Tony Martin on a slant. 1st down up at the 35-yard line. Kevin Ross with the tackle.
Tony Martin, he has a lot of speed on the outside. And this is breaking away from Kevin Ross, a fine cornerback. Ross, pretty good coverage on that move, but Martin and Marino teaming up for a 1st down. Marino puts that ball. If you're a defender, you have got to be absolutely dead perfect. And on a slant, it's almost impossible because he always has it in front of the receiver or down low, whereas the defender, you've got to interfere before you can make a deflection.
1st and 10, Dolphins at the 35. Play clock down to 2-1 as they snap it, and it's knocked down by Leonard Griffin, number 98. 2nd and 10.
Leonard Griffin this time just working against Mark Dennis. The right tackle doesn't get much in the way of penetration and throws up that right hand and gets lucky. Steve DeBerg rests on the Kansas City sideline. What a courageous man.
Earlier, if you missed it, Washington upset Philadelphia 20-6. Eagles gone again in the 1st round of the playoffs. On go the Redskins. 2nd and 10 from the 35. Moreno, a bullet too hard for Clayton. But Mark has caught a number of those over the years. He's seen that before. He has seen that velocity before. Just dropped it.
The best of them now will do that. A perfectly thrown ball. You know, you've got a clear field. He sensed no one around him, and he was wide open. Just for a brief moment, he took his eyes off the ball, started to think, where am I going to go with it now? And right here, he is thinking, where will I take this thing?
He looks like he was in between, Frank. Not sure whether to catch it with his hands
you
or
can get in there too, but
slide all the way in front and catch it with the body.
He's up in the hundreds of receptions he's had from Dan Marino, not to mention the thousands of practice.
3rd down and 10. Miami from the 35. 8:54 to go in the half. The game tied at 3. Big rush is on, and then Marino gets sacked at the 30-yard line. He was able to step up, and then Lewis Cooper will get credit for the sack back at the 30. Bill Cowher very pleased with the work of his defense. That time they blitzed the corner, Stan Petrie.
Well, they're playing 6 defensive backs, and they brought Petrie from the corner that time.
What a play by Richmond Webb, picking up that safety blitz and letting Marino stay alive a little longer. They still have to punt, but this Webb, what a sensational player for a rookie.
Here's Reggie Roby. A wobbly kick, but good distance. Fielded at the 15-yard line by Emil Harry, and he weaves his way back out to the 21. Miami and Roby with a 55-yard kick, 6-yard run back. Cheap ball, 8:21 to go. We're tied.
Dan's weekend little toy that he has.
That's right. Quite a wake, but it's still, you're able to water ski behind it.
Kansas City has the ball. Stephon Page is back in the game. First down from the 22. Barry Word. Barry Word is a terrific story. Here's a guy, came out of the University of Virginia, spent 4.5 months in a prison in West Virginia on a cocaine distribution conviction. Saints drafted him, spent a year with him, and then part of another, and then left and worked for GTE last year, and the Chiefs took a chance on him, brought him into camp. Schottenheimer had a long talk with him, and look at those numbers for a guy who started the season number 2 on the depth chart behind Christian Okoye. 2nd and 7 as Barry Word slices out to the 29. It'll be 3rd and 2.
There's number 2, and then there's number 2 behind a guy who was the league's leading rusher the previous year. I mean, Barry Word was looking at not playing at all. So not only does he gain 1,000 yards, but when Kansas City needs big yards, look what he gets for them.
And he has really become number 1.
Yeah.
He's been more effective than Okoye. There is Christian. And Okoye has also been injured this year, and it's been the shoulder that's bothered him.
But he still slammed it in there for 805 yards.
Yep. Not a bad 1-2 punch. Out of the gun on 3rd and 2 from the 29. Dolphins rush 4. Pass is too high for Page. He's covered well by McKyer. 4th down.
Well, McKyer is signaling he's number 1. Actually, that was a poorly thrown football. It caught the wind. We saw that wind that we talked about earlier, and that ball just took off and sailed on DeBerg.
The Kansas City punter, Brian Barker, he did not start the season. Kelly Goodburn did, and it's Goodburn's good luck to wind up in the playoffs with Washington. Meanwhile, Mark Clayton will return his first kick since 1986. Don Shula putting him back there in special situations today, but he's going to fair catch this one at the 36. Dolphins have had trouble running back punts, and Shula figures why not? Maybe Clayton can break one, but not at this particular moment. 3-3. Miami from the 37 on first down. It's Tony Page taking the pass, picking up 9, taking it out to the 46-yard line. 2nd and 1. Hackett and Ross in on the tackle with 6:35 to go in the half.
Tony Page, who elicits the same kind of response from both coaches. Don Shula, what does Tony Page bring to your team? Toughness. Marty Schottenheimer, what do you think about Tony Page? He brings toughness to that team. When you impress both the head coaches that way, it must be true.
Dan Marino, the new Marino, 7 of 12. It's a good predict, but 66 yards. Page picks up the first down on 2nd and 1, takes it to the 48. Derek Thomas makes the stop as they rewrap the great John Offerdahl, who will be going to the Pro Bowl again at inside linebacker.
Tony Page, by the way, a Plan B player that came from Detroit, and you wonder why Miami was able to pick him up. He certainly was available when Detroit had him. They were in their run and shoot offense, and he just didn't fit. Certainly didn't fit that pattern. So he fits perfectly here in Miami for what Don Shula wants. He is a good receiver out of the backfield, terrific blocker, just a tough football player all the way around.
5:28 to go in the half. Smith. And Smith is able to fight to the 41-yard line of Kansas City for a Miami first down behind a block by Dan's newfound favorite, Richmond Webb.
Well, Richmond Webb was at the point of attack. Key Sims was at the point of attack, and an outstanding lead block by Tony Page. The three of them all working on the left side. This Richmond Webb, I mean, I am just in love with this guy's ability to play the game. For a rookie to be that efficient at offensive tackle is almost unheard of. I mean, I think we have to go back to the great Anthony Munoz coming into the league to find a player the equal of Richmond Webb.
A Deardorfian type block.
I mean, I was nothing like that when I was a rookie.
1st and 10 from the 41. Play fake. Marino going deep. Too deep. Coverage was there as well. Albert Lewis was covering on the play. Mark Clayton couldn't spring free. 2nd down.
Clayton gave a drive move to Albert Lewis on the inside, who is a good man-for-man defender. We talked about it earlier in the game. One of the best has ever come along. He went for the move, but he was able to recover. He's so quick getting to the outside, and Marino had to overthrow it. Now look at him get back. He took the drive move to the inside, was able to get back where Marino had to overthrow it. Two fine cornerbacks, Albert Lewis and Kevin Ross.
2nd and 10, 4:34 left. First half, Kansas City and Miami tied 3-3. Here's Smith for not much. Sammy to the 39-yard line. Neil Smith makes the tackle, and it's going to be 3rd down and 8.
4 wides now come in for the Miami Dolphins. Tony Martin comes in along with James Pruitt. They'll work on the outside, and they'll work Clayton in motion along the line of scrimmage, trying to free him up. Now, what defensive coordinator Bill Cowher likes to do for Kansas City is give Marino a look that when he comes up to the line of scrimmage, he does not know what defense they're going to be in. Consequently, he does not know when he pulls away from the center, or in this case gets the snap from the shotgun, what defense they're ultimately going to wind up in.
3rd and 8 at the 39. 3:50 to go in the half. Game tied 3-3. Protected well. Marino throws, and it's incomplete. He tried to jam it into James Pruitt, who was double covered on the play. And it will be 4th down. The line of scrimmage is the 39, and here comes Stoyanovich again.
You mentioned Dan Marino, Al, having to jam the ball in. That's really, on 90% of his passes, what he's being relegated to by the tremendous coverage by the Chiefs secondary.
6 defensive backs again, and they do it time and time again in pass situations, and it is working for them.
Marino is really struggling to find an open man.
Here we go again. He already kicked one from 58, so this is a chip shot. 57. Secules to put it down, who did a nice job the last time getting it down. And this kick is no good. Just a little short. Just a little short.
And now here's the price you pay for missing that.
Christian Okoye's first carry of the game is a memorable one as he takes it to the 45-yard line of the Dolphins. A 16-yard gallop for the Nigerian Nightmare.
Christian missed 2 of the last 3 games. But last week, a game against the Bears, he came in and gained over 100 yards, and he was running more like the Christian Okoye of last week against the Bears than he had all year long. And Barry Word had just about replaced him, certainly did as a starter, but he looked good last week against the Bears, and that's a fine sprint there.
Well, Word had carried for only 12 yards on 7 carries. Okoye picks up 16 there and 3 here. It'll be 2nd and 7 with 2:50 to go in the half, and the game time 3-3. Hugh Green to a chorus of Hughes makes the tackle.
Well, neither Okoye or Word are what you call your basic outside runners. And what Miami has done thus far is they've taken everything, Dan, they've tried to do off tackle and strung it out to the outside, and they are not cut up guys.
Well, that time the guy who strung it was Hugh Green. Al gave him credit on the tackle. He beat a double team and took on Okoye and won.
2nd and 7 at the 42-yard line. The cast on the left arm of Grunhard. DeBerg steps up, avoids a Green sack, throws complete. First down. Page run out of bounds at the 26-yard line. Stephon Page.
Again, the play action, and if you followed Christian Okoye, don't be upset about it, because DeBerg actually makes it look almost magical.
With Frank Gifford and Dan Deerdorf.
Don Johnson, a late arrival for the game today.
Yeah, very late. 2 minutes to go in the half. 1st and 10 KC at the Miami 26-yard line. Game tied 3-3. DeBerg going for Page. Touchdown.
There's a flag back at the quarterback, and it might have been for roughing the passer. Yep, that's what it is.
It's Emil Harry who is shaken up. He is the injured chief. He was away from the play. DeBerg is fine. It is against Hugh Green for the penalty, and the guy who's in agony is Harry.
Meanwhile, Stephon Page just blew by J.B. Brown, and a perfectly thrown ball, and Harry appears to be all right. 4-man in that pattern, and DeBerg again doesn't even look off. Stephon Page just roars by J.B. Brown, wide open, and just about as well as you can throw a football by Steve DeBerg.
When these two teams met last year in the 2 games, Page caught 10 balls, including 2 for touchdowns. He's no stranger to Miami.
There's the blow to the head, and that will get the flag every time. Hugh Green driving around the block. Blow to the head. DeBerg staggers out in time to see the official indicate the 6.
They'll assess it on the kickoff. Lowry for the point after. So the Chiefs score the first touchdown of the game, and with 1:54 remaining in the first half, it is now 10-3, and DeBerg and Page combining to put Kansas City up by 7.
Well, if you're a Miami Dolphins fan, that was scary easy, that drive. They did it on the ground, and they did it easily from way out. It was DeBerg to Page for 6 points, and an easy one indeed.
Akron replacing the old Enterprise, hovering above Joe Robbie Stadium here in Miami in the late afternoon. 80-degree day. Stephon Page, huge half. 5 receptions, including the last one for a 26-yard touchdown from Steve DeBerg, who's always smiling. Nick Lowry. And he gains the benefit of the penalty, kicking off from midfield instead of his own 35. And that results in a touchback with 1:54 remaining in the first half. Tonight, America's watching agency. First down, Miami from the 20. Marino comes up in the shotgun with 4 wideouts, and Jensen flanking him in the backfield. Caught and then dropped, incomplete. Clayton couldn't hold it up at the 27. Burris covers, 2nd and 10.
Burris, one of those additional backs in, as once again Kansas City has kind of bewildered the Miami offense, but there's 6 defensive backs. Been very effective.
Good job by Burris of attacking the football. Watch the way he's going to go after the ball. Now there the ball comes into Clayton. Watch the right hand come in and knock the ball right out. Before Clayton could get the 2nd foot down and make it a legal catch, Lloyd Burris gets there and knocks the ball away. That was intentional, going directly for the football.
2nd and 10 from the 20. Marino a subpar 7 of 15 for 66 yards. Zooms one incomplete. Too deep, intended for Mark Cooper. 3rd and 10.
And this defense thus far that the Kansas City Chiefs have put on the field with the 6 defensive backs has really got the Miami offense puzzled. They have had success in the middle of it. It's kind of uncharacteristic of Kansas City because they like to go man-to-man. They are doing man-for-man up short, but they are playing a 3 deep in the middle. And it really has Miami stumped thus far.
Well, it's a secondary that has gotten its share of acclaim, which made it triply amazing that Warren Moon was able to do what he did against them at the end of the year with 527 yards.
Well, this will be a 4 wide receiver set like Houston would utilize.
3rd down and 10. Jensen picks up the first down. What a play by Jensen, who was able to knife between Martin and Pearson kicks the turf in disgust. And a timeout called by Miami. Jim Jensen knowing exactly how far he had to get for the first down. The last 7 yards were all his. 1:32 to go in the half. 10-3 KC. Down pass to Stephon Page, the difference in the game right now. 10-3 Chiefs. Winner goes to either Buffalo or LA next week. Loser goes on vacation. First down from the 31. Marino throws from Martin, and it's incomplete, and the flag is down as Martin took a vicious late hit by Lloyd Burris, and that's going to cost the Chiefs.
And that was uncalled for on the part of Burris. There's no way that ball could have been caught.
We had a personal foul on number 24, defense.
Well, actually, it's on number 34 defense, not 24. And really, I think what drew the flag was going to the head. Watch the right hand to the side of the helmet. That's what draws the flag. Well, actually, Burris was coming in. His timing was okay. He can't pull up once he reaches a certain point, but that was an intentional shot to the side of Tony Martin's head.
And that'll draw it every time. It really hurts Kansas City.
It makes it 1st and 10 up at the 46 to the chagrin of Schottenheimer with 1:26 to play in the half. Earlier today, Washington advancing. Philadelphia drops out of the playoff picture. 20-6 the final at Veterans Stadium. Here, 10-3 Kansas City. Flag thrown at the line of scrimmage. Underneath, it's Clayton. Clayton has a first down. He is stopped at the 40, but somebody had lined up off. It might have been Derek Thomas, who came across the line for KC.
Boy, this is a good look at Miami getting lots of yards. But that's his customary position in this formation.
1st and 10, 1:14 and 2 timeouts remaining for Miami. And Marino has it stripped away. Then it's kicked by a Dolphin. It's loose. Neil Smith may have it. Does. Chief ball. J.C. Pearson comes up with it. Yeah. Smith stripped it.
And Keith Sims, the left guard of the Dolphins, was going to be a hero, was going to pick the ball up and run with it instead of just falling on it, which is what he should have done.
So right. When in ever any doubt, you cover the football, and that time Sims tried to pick it up and run with it. Kick to the head, and Kansas City came up with it.
Now watch, moving in from the left side, there is Neil Smith, and again, that's an intentional hatchet job on the right arm of Dan Marino. Alert play by Neil Smith.
Go to the coverage once again in the secondary of the Kansas City Chiefs, however. Marino had the ball up, ready to fire, couldn't find the open receiver, pulled it down, gets the strip by Smith, and Kansas City takes over.
Yeah, and there was Sims, rather than falling on it, trying to pick it up, and he kicks it.
From the gun, it's an inside handoff to McNair. Todd McNair, his first carry, nets 8 to the 46. It's going to be 2nd and 2. Chiefs have all of their timeouts left. And the clock has stopped momentarily. Kansas City, though, has not taken a timeout. Now they wind it again. 50 seconds. 2nd and 2. Underneath, that's McNair. He has a first down at the Dolphin 47, and now they stop the clock. 41 seconds remaining. We've got an in. But Stephon Page had a tremendous night with 10 catches for over 200 yards.
He's had himself a pretty good first half here.
They're flexing the left knee of
Kansas City with 2 timeouts left. 1st and 10 at the 47. Fred Jones comes in to replace Thomas. There's Jones, number 80, bottom of your screen. DeBerg for his favorite target. That's catch number 6 for Stephon Page.
And Tim McKyer was way out of the same area code with Stephon Page on that play. DeBerg seemingly wanting to tie up one-on-one with his receiver. There's Page with McKyer way off of Page. Page short of the first down, but is 2nd and short.
Hard to believe Page and Henry Ellard, the Rams' all-time leading receiver, played together in college at Fresno State. 2nd and 1. They keep it on the ground. This is McNair going nowhere. And a timeout is called by Kansas City on sort of an odd call here on a 2nd and short with 26 seconds. Choice, his decision.
We shall see.
3rd down 3 from the 41. DeBerg throws. McNair, great tackle is made there by Kerry Glenn. Does he have the first down? Clock keeps running. Remember, they only have 1 timeout left, and they are forced to use it here.
Stephon Page, he's at the top of the screen.
Not a bad gamble, all things considered, even if Miami gets it so little time remains. They give it to Okoye. He picks up the first down, but that's pretty much as good as running out the half unless they can line it up and DeBerg can down it.
Flag is down.
I think it's a motion penalty was the indication against Kansas City.
Illegal motion.
9 seconds remain. Good high floating kick. Fair catch called for at the 9 by Tony Martin. 1 second left in the half.
And Dan Marino and Don Shula go, you got to be kidding me.
Dan was in the cradle.
Not quite.
Dan was never in the cradle. A kneel down ends the first half. And we have halftime activities coming up. She referred Stoyanovich to kick it, but J.B. Brown will have to hold it at the 35-yard line. Second half begins. Good deep kick. Jones for the touchback. Kansas City at the 20, and Kansas City will have a shorter deck here in the second half because we saw Rob Thomas, the wideout, leave, and it's a knee sprain, and he is done for the day. Halftime stats and a big time of possession difference for Miami, but KC leads on the scoreboard.
Yeah, and it's really a possession number that we wouldn't have been all that surprised if we'd have seen it reversed. Kansas City expected to be the team to pound away at Miami with their big backs, maintain a dominance on the line of scrimmage, and keep the ball longer. It's been exactly the opposite.
Christian Okoye begins the half as the Kansas City running back. After Barry Word started the game, Okoye bangs out to the 30-yard line, a gain of 10. Lewis Oliver makes the tackle. So Barry Word was held very much in check in the first half, and we might see a lot more. In fact, I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of Okoye in the second half.
That's exactly what Marty Schottenheimer did against the Bears last week, and he brought Okoye off the bench, and he had a tremendous second half. He ran with style and class like he did a year ago, and here you see him turn it upfield and breaks the tackle.
And look at that hit by Lewis Oliver. Oliver, number 25, puts a shot on Okoye that we haven't seen in a while.
Second and inches, just inside the 30. Christian Okoye, enough for a first down. Puts his shoulder down, takes it to the 31-yard line. First down, Chiefs.
I think the success Miami had with the Kansas City running game in the first half is a little attributable to being just up the emotional high they had. I think Kansas City is going to try to run the ball right at them. Miami had trouble all year long against teams that could run. Against Washington, against Buffalo, against the Raiders. Anytime they came up against a team that could run like the Giants, well, they just couldn't control the ball game, and they lost those ball games. When the teams averaged, those four teams I mentioned averaged 184 yards rushing.
Good indication of that, Frank, is the way they're lined up here. Three tight ends. DeBerg throws. It's caught by one of those tight ends, Roberts. Now, their philosophy, I think, would be different anyway with the lead and the fact that they want to run the ball, and certainly that's also been helped by the fact that Thomas is out at wide receiver.
And if they're going to go to their tight ends, that's something new. I mean, these guys just don't get the ball. Roberts only had 11 catches all year. You see him there, the motion man. He's just going to break right upfield, a zone defense, and that's an easy completion. Jonathan Hayes, their starting tight end, only 9 receptions on the entire season. The Kansas City tight ends are going to be open.
Here's Okoye. He fights his way to the 50-yard line. That's a gain of 4.
What you can do, though, when you start running the ball, as it appears Kansas City has been able to do here in the early moments of the second half, is the play-action pass really comes into play. And you'll get those cornerbacks, and particularly the two safety men, Lewis Oliver, Jarvis Williams, big hitters for the Dolphins. They'll start creeping up to the line of scrimmage. They'll come up closer. Pretty soon they're going to read one. DeBerg will pull it out and pop one to a Stephon Pace, to a tight end, and just makes it work so much more easily.
You saw Tom Olivadotti signaling in to John Offerdahl, 2nd and 6. Here is Barry Word, and Word, who didn't do anything in the first half when he gained 12 yards on 7 carries, gets stopped here by John Offerdahl. Why does John Offerdahl keep going to the Pro Bowl?
Because he knows how to read a play. He reads the blocking of the lineman first, floats along, stays behind his people, and then makes his move, but makes his move upfield. He's not trying to make a tackle going parallel to the line of scrimmage. He's making a tackle moving upfield.
3rd and 6. Out of the gun. From the 49-yard line. DeBerg under pressure, incomplete. Couldn't get it to Todd McNair, running an out at the 43.
Good coverage by Langford on McNair, who is a good receiver out of the backfield. McNair, 30 or 40 receptions this season working from the backfield, but Langford was right on him. Now watch number 44 of the Dolphins come up. He knows he's covering this man on a 3rd and 6. He knows he likes to run an out route. And he is right there, and it forces the errant pass by the part of DeBerg.
Brian Barker to punt. Deep and angled, and a perfect kick. Put it right down on the stripe at about the 7-yard line. It's a 44-yard kick. As a matter of fact, they'll mark it at the 6-yard line. Brian Barker pins Miami deep as the Dolphins take over for the first time in the second half. 11:18 to go in the third. Chiefs by 7.
He realizes the importance of what lies ahead. Playoff football. You're in the second half. You're down. Got 94 yards to go to score, to tie it. Mark Clayton would like to be a big part of it.
First down, Miami. They begin from their own 6-yard line. Smith gives them breathing room. Fights his way close to a first down. Percy Snow, the linebacker, #1 pick out of Michigan State, makes the tackle.
And where do they go? Right over Dan's man, Richard Webb.
Well, Richmond Webb is dominating that side of the line of scrimmage. He's going against Bill Moss, the defensive end. Here's Webb and here's Moss. Watch this block right here by Webb. I mean, he gets a little push there from Sims to the inside, but I mean, he's taking Moss all the way out of the play. And Bill Moss is a fine defensive lineman. Richmond Webb, though, is something, I think, extraordinary.
2nd and inches. Marino flushed out. Throws, has it tipped and nearly picked off. Intended for Clayton, and that's one of the reasons that Albert Lewis winds up in the Pro Bowl a lot. Coming in, reaching in, breaking it up.
Well, he's done Marino with his quickness. Marino, who is very confident and makes great judgments out there, thought he could zip that ball into Clayton before Lewis could recover. No way. Lewis was back and not only deflected it, he almost picked it off. Take a look again. He thought he could sneak that in there, and a good reaction on the part of Lewis. So he dives for it, almost makes the interception.
These guys as a unit, if this game continues this way, you'd have to say they're the MVPs.
3rd and inches from the 16-yard line. They give it to Sammy Smith, and he's going to be very close.
Oh, this will be a mark.
Right there, dead on the 16-yard line.
Chiefs think they have stopped them. And so do the Dolphins.
I think they're a little short, if that's where the spot is.
Well, I think your man, Sally Amua, was... did he make it?
No.
No. Boy, credit Dan Sally Amua, the nose tackle. That guy right there made a play and a half to keep Miami from picking up the first down.
6 feet, 285 pounds. Just controls the interior part of that line of scrimmage.
Reggie Roby to punt. Oh, a bomb. I mean, a real bomb. Fielded at about the 19-yard line by Harry. He gets upended at the 31-yard line.
He caught that favoring wind, and that thing took a ride.
64 yards.
What a time to do it. Hammers one, hangs it up, catches the wind, and gets the Dolphins out of trouble.
We've seen a 58-yard field goal and a 64-yard punt.
Only did this kick go 64 yards. It made it there in about 3.5 seconds. And if Emil Harry doesn't do a remarkable job of fielding it over his shoulder at the 20-yard line, that thing might have made it to the end zone. I mean, who knows if he gets a good bounce.
Here's Christian Okoye taking the fake to Berg with that great play fake. Hits Emil Harry. And Harry is out of bounds. He keeps going, but he was out of bounds at the 44-yard line. Tim McKyer with the coverage.
Oh, McKyer got caught looking into the backfield, as so often will happen with a defensive back, and he was given a little move to the inside, and Harry spun McKyer around like a top. He was wide open. Well, we'll go back to what we said at the beginning of the second half, Dan. You can run the ball, you can play action, and fake it and get the man open.
Well, look at this offensive line. Look how big they are, and they all stand tall. And if you're a Miami defensive player, you can't see the ball. You can't see the ball is still in Steve DeBerg's hands. It looks like a running play, and when you can't see, you have no choice but to react.
There's the fake, but he gets sacked anyway. David Griggs comes in to sack him at the 50-yard line.
DeBerg wanted to go to the slant to Harry. Harry was covered well by J.B. Brown. He pulled it down. He gets the sack. Good coverage by the Dolphins.
That's a smart play by Steve DeBerg, because he's going to throw that slant, and his receiver doesn't run the pattern. That's the problem. The receiver doesn't run a slant. He's running straight downfield.
And that's why he was so angry at the end of the play, not because of the sack. Second down and 17 from the 50-yard line. DeBerg, and that's an errant throw intended for Christian Okoye. And when you go to Okoye, you go into your ultimate safety valve.
Well, I'll tell you what they think of Okoye. They put David Griggs, 6'3", 250-pounder, out there covering him, and he did a good job. Okoye, for the year, only 3 receptions coming into tonight. Barry Word had 4. Well, they don't attract a lot of attention from your defense.
Third and 17 from the 50, 8:55 remaining. Third quarter, 10-3 Kansas City.
And you rarely ever hear this much noise at Joe Robbie.
Screen is set up. Todd McNair. And McNair gets it to the 36, but he is short of the first down. Kerry Glenn makes the tackle.
Well, those decisions now, again, with the wind swirling. What do we do now?
Well, it's pretty clear that they're not going to kick this way. Schottenheimer's already tipped his hand on that in the first half. The other way is the way you'll kick it.
Well, he brings in the short yardage offense, and they're going to go on 4th down.
Out comes Okoye.
3 tight end set. 4th and 2 at the 36.
They were in a similar situation. They threw the ball. They didn't even fool around about it before. They went to the shotgun. Let's see what they do now.
You know, with a 10-3 lead, I think I'd have to punt the ball here.
They may, well, I thought they were trying to draw him offside, but they're going to give it to Okoye, and he is able to angle his way to the 31 for a first down.
I think that's a good point, Dan.
Yeah.
But when you have success like that, I'll tell you how, not only does it give your offense a tremendous lift, it is terribly debilitating to the Miami Dolphin defense. They had a chance on, that was a 4th and longer than 2 a little bit, and they just bulldozed the left side of that line and got the first.
But that was a real, I mean, that was a big gamble by Schottenheimer.
A big gamble.
I mean, it paid off big.
It did pay off big, but to turn over the ball and surrender that yardage, holding a lead.
First down, Kansas City at the 31. 7:20 to go in the period. Slant caught by Alfredo Roberts, one of the tight ends, and that's enough for a first down. They'll put it at the 20-yard line. 11-yard pickup.
If the Chiefs go on here, guys, and score on this drive, if they're able to stuff it into the end zone and take a 17-3 lead, boy, you've got to go back to that 4th and 2 by Marty Schottenheimer and say, talk about a guy who's not afraid to roll the dice and come up big.
First down from the 20-yard line. Fake to Okoye. Pass is caught by Page, and a touchdown-saving tackle is made by Jarvis Williams. And what a great fake. The whole half of the Miami defense went with Okoye.
Well, it's a combination here of play action and crossing patterns. It is thoroughly confusing the 2 safeties of the Miami defense. The play action up front, again, the ball handling by DeBerg, but Page coming all the way across. He starts all the way out to the right, comes all the way across the formation, while the play action fake is taking place, and the Miami secondary is not able to deal with that route.
It didn't hurt that Jarvis Williams was one-on-one either.
No.
Here's Okoye on 1st and goal, picking up 1 to the 3. Carl Wilson makes the stop. 5:48 remaining, 3rd quarter.
Steve DeBerg rapidly becoming a little bit of a legend here. His 36th year, his 14th season. He told us he got a little embarrassed about it. He said, I picked up a thing during the offseason. So he kind of quizzed him about what it was that kept him from getting all the interceptions, having such a great year, and he got kind of embarrassed about it, wouldn't tell us about it. We talked to Marty Schottenheimer. He started to tell us about it. He wouldn't tell us about it. So we don't know what that thing is, but it's working.
Only the shadow knows. Second and goal. Another play fake, and this time, however, Miami didn't bite. Hugh Green comes in, and also there's a flag down at the 16.
Oh, he threw it away.
Oh,
Intentional grounding. Intentional grounding.
and DeBerg right in Whitaker's face, screaming at his tight end, upset about having to take that penalty. I mean, you can't blame DeBerg for throwing the ball away. You'll see a lot of quarterbacks get away with it. See, there's Hugh Green right in his face, and it's obvious that he dumps the ball to avoid the sack. That's a good call by the official. Pat Haggerty right there to make the call. But DeBerg unhappy over one of his teammates apparently not doing the job he wanted.
Whitaker.
Offensive plays coming in from Joe Pendry, the young offensive coordinator for Marty Schottenheimer. And this game has been called brilliantly.
It is third down and goal at the 13-yard line. Third and goal, 5:18 to go, third quarter. Kansas City leads 10-3. Three tight end set. Okoye to about the 8-yard line. Offerdahl goes out to make the play, and Lowry and the field goal unit come on. Oliver also helped out on the tackle.
You know, the problem with having Okoye in the backfield in a passing situation is you're almost assured of him getting the ball on a run. And here's John Offerdahl playing the run all the way, coming all the way around the formation to make the hit on Okoye. But here's a guy who's not a threat to receive the ball. When he's in that backfield, I think it allows the defense to take some liberties and maybe overplay the run.
Particularly on third and long, Dan, because you can't go with your best weapon. The play action is, they're not even thinking play action.
Alfred Oglesby is shaken up, and Miami can ill-afford just in case.
There's the chief offense out there for all to see.
Right there. Frank Winters will snap it. 25-yard field goal. No problem. Lowry kicked at least one in every game this season. Has two today. 4:46 to go in the third. It's now Kansas City by 10 on a sparkling to within field goal range. Tim Robbie, the son of the late Joe Robbie, who died early this year, took over as the president of the Dolphins. Has a great relationship, great working relationship with Don Shula. But right now, his team, despite its 12-4 mark during the regular season, finds itself in peril of its year ending right here at home. 13-3 Kansas City is the Chiefs kickoff. 4:46 to go in the third quarter. Nick Lowry sends it to the 9. That's James Pruitt, and a great tackle is made to keep Pruitt inside the 15-yard line. And there's the guy, Charles Washington. We mentioned it before. They activated him yesterday, put him back on the roster simply because of the breakdowns on return coverage in the last 2 weeks. He's blocked a punt today and made that tackle there.
Yeah, he just knifed right through the Dolphins in their attempt to set up some sort of a wedge, and then Pruitt, with a kind of a tentative move, got up to around the 10, then started to go laterally and was a relatively easy target.
First and 10 from the 12. Marino throws. It's caught by Duper. Juggles the ball. Loses the ball at the 30. Kansas City has the football.
What a backbreaker for Miami. A perfect throw from Dan Marino. An excellent catch by Mark Duper, and then what really hurts for a guy is he ends up losing the football because he's trying to do a little something extra. Mark Duper is doing nothing more here than trying to win the ball game. Breaks a tackle, gets between two guys, is going to spin around here and loses the ball. Albert Lewis comes up and, as he always is right around the football. Darren Terry is there. Boy, what a bad break for the Dolphins.
Dino Hackett was there to recover it. Ross went limping off. He was involved in the initial hit, and now Kansas City has quieted this crowd as they take over at the 29-yard line. 4:29 to play in the third quarter.
Tough break for Marino. It works the sidelines. Come on, let's get it up, guys. Went over to Duper, gave him a little pat on the fanny. Wild competitor, Dan Marino, and he found the area that is open, and that is coming across back on the slants over the middle, and they are looking now at Kevin Ross, the cornerback, and a good one he is for the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's look again. The slant end is almost impossible to cover. You run it like Duper and throw it like Marino. And there is the hit. Darren Terry, who came back from knee surgery, started 6 games since he came back about mid-season off the PUP list, and a perennial All-Pro before that knee injury last December, and he made an All-Pro hit right there to take it away from Miami.
Well, the Dolphin defense has to be very tough in here. If Kansas City goes into the end zone, you might write a finish to it. Okoye picks up close to 5, taking it to the 24-yard line. 2nd and 5. Brian Soche is now playing at the nose for Miami, so Oglesby was hurt. Lee has the bad back. They've had to revamp that middle.
It really was the only move left to Tom Olivadotti, the defensive coordinator of the Dolphins. Soche, a longtime nose tackle who they moved out to end because of the emergence of Lee and Oglesby, now really has but no alternative to move back to the inside.
2nd and 5 at the 24-yard line. Roberts in motion. Nice and simple. Okoye to the 22-yard line. That's going to set up a 3rd and 2. Maybe closer to 3. Don Shula, 61 years old yesterday. Back in the playoffs for the first time since after the 85 regular campaign.
Kansas City trots out a couple of wide receivers. They bring out a couple of tight ends. But again, it's a situation where you could go play action. If he works from under the center, he could go play action pass.
3rd and a long 2 from the 22. Okoye has to get to the 19, doesn't. Out of bounds at the 21. David Griggs will get credit for the stop. And here comes Lowry.
Frank, you talked about it earlier. If you can get number 35, Christian Okoye, going parallel to the line of scrimmage, you have done the job defensively.
It's hard to get 260 pounds going north and south when it takes off east and west.
Once you get him moving in that direction, it's going to be difficult for him to make a left turn and get up towards that first down marker.
Just weight and mass, simple physics.
Yeah, that wasn't all that good of a push by Griggs, and I'm sorry, but the semi wasn't able to turn before it ran out of lane.
38-yard attempt for Nick Lowry. Ballard is spotted at the 28-yard line. Winters snaps it, and Lowry's kick is good. 3 field goals today for Nick Lowry. 2:55 remaining in the third quarter as the Chiefs, after the interception, cash in for 3. Just getting that field goal after Duper had fumbled. Kansas City recovered. They cash in for 3 on the turnover. Lead by 13, and Lowry puts it in the air. Taken at the 10, Mark Logan. And Logan brings it back out to the 34-yard line, where Miami will try to get something going. J.C. Pearson makes the tackle.
Return is 24 yards. 1st and 10 by the Dolphins.
Well, after the Duper fumble last time, you have to look at it as a success by the Miami defense, just forcing Kansas City to settle for the Lowry field goal. But unfortunately for Dan Marino and the Dolphin offense, they are running out of mistakes. They're running out of dropped passes. They're running out of missed blocks. They can't afford many more.
His numbers adding up to about 5 yards per attempt from Marino. Throws underneath for Smith. And he has a first down as Sammy moves it to the 46-yard line.
Smith's 12th reception of the year. Al touched on it earlier. They did not use him much out of the backfield, even though he had a 53-yard touchdown pass last week against Indianapolis. Not bad stuff, though, to come underneath that coverage has been smothering you deep. It's open over the middle. They have been able to get there.
First down at the 47. 2 minutes to go, third quarter. Kansas City by 13. Smith again. Across midfield, fights his way to the 48-yard line, where he's surrounded by a quartet of Chiefs.
Just tough running once again, and another superb block by Richmond Webb over in the left side.
The Richmond Webb puts a horse collar on Chris Martin. Watch number 57. Hello. That's part block, part tackle. He got away with it, though, and Sammy Smith was smart enough to duck inside of it, pick up some positive yardage.
He's a grown-up, isn't he?
He's a grown-up. You're darn right he is.
Second and 4. Here's Smith again, and the former Florida State Seminole takes it to the 45-yard line, stopped by Dino Hackett. It'll be third down and 1. Bill Cowher, who's done such a great job, is the defensive coordinator for Kansas City.
Cowher played for Marty Schottenheimer with the Cleveland Browns. In fact, when Marty Schottenheimer cut him, he went to Philadelphia and told him, one day I'd like to have you coach for me. Came back, and that's exactly what he's doing. He left Cleveland with Marty and is the defensive coordinator, and a good one.
Big play for the Dolphins here. Third and 1. They scored a touchdown last week on third and 1 on a pass to Smith. This time they let him run the ball. He gets hit at the line, tries to burrow forward for the first down, but that time it was Lloyd Burris coming up on the run blitz who makes the stop and stops him short of the first down.
Big decision here for Don Shula on the left. Marty Schottenheimer waiting to see what Don's going to do. It'll be fourth and a long one.
And we've got 20 seconds to go in the period.
They're going to go for it. Roy Foster, a reserve guard, a former Pro Bowler here, is checking in. He moves out and plays a tight end position.
The play clock, you know what's happening here? They originally thought they could let the quarter run out and talk about this, but the play clock was slightly in front of the game clock, just slightly, and then all of a sudden they jumped up. They realized they were going to get a delay of the game. That's exactly what took place there. I was looking at Clayton, and at first he's saying, hey, let the clock run down. Then they looked and they said, well, wait a minute. The play clock is just slightly ahead of the game clock. We're going to be flagged if we don't call a timeout.
Marino jumped as high as you did, Al, when he saw it.
Yep. And alertly, the only player on the field that realized it was Dan Marino.
Exactly, exactly. Because Clayton's saying, let it run down, and Marino's looking, he's going, wait a minute. Give me that timeout right now, fast.
And when you're trailing, when you're down 16-3, having to burn a timeout still in the third quarter, well, you don't want to label it disastrous, but it is certainly undesirable.
They thought they were going to get what would have amounted to a free timeout to discuss this at the end of the quarter, and couldn't afford to take it. So here comes your 4th and 1 from the 45-yard line. Smith. Oh, I think he might have gotten it. On that second surge, Hackett makes the stop.
I don't know if that was the second surge or the third surge.
Tough running by Sammy Smith. That was in traffic all the way.
Haggerty's going to measure. The quarter is over.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt that he's got the first down.
Who leads it? 49, Tony Page, with a smothering block on the outside man. Smith stopped there momentarily and then carries a couple of tacklers with him. I don't think.
Lead 3. Back in Miami after this word from our ABC station. And that's the hill Miami has to climb because they're down by 13. At the 43-yard line, 1st and 10 Miami after converting on 4th down. Underneath, it's Sammy Smith. About a 10-yard gain, close to a first down, stopped by Chris Martin.
And Tony Page with another big block out in front of Sammy Smith. Allowed Smith to pick up the first down yardage.
Boy, Chris Martin did a pretty good job of trying to remove Sammy Smith's head here. Watch Martin there at the bottom of your screen, number 57, move up towards Smith, and watch his left arm get right up alongside the head. Now, he was trying to make a tackle, and he didn't.
Picking up the check
Tonight? Absolutely.
Again, there's Page out in front, number 49. Well, we're counting on it. Not a bad time now for Don to think of a play action pass, try to get something big, get a quick score.
If I don't, we won't eat.
Not a bad idea.
I resent that.
Second and an inch.
If you got something where you can make it look like you're going to go short yardage, go big, get you a big score, good time to do it for the Dolphins.
At the 33. Marino realigns Smith. And he's going to go up top. And it is caught inside the 15 by Mark Clayton. Kevin Ross with the coverage.
Good call by Marino. He changed it at the line of scrimmage. You saw Kevin Ross lined up inside on the wide side of the field, and that gave him an opportunity to throw that fade. It's a good read. Clayton is either going to take it on a
that have worked over the years the way these two have. And look at Mark Clayton's fight to get control of that football.
First and 10 at the 11. Here's Smith to the outside and then cuts it back, takes it to the 6-yard line, a gain of 5.
Miami not going easy. Don Shula with a 4th down attempt at midfield, kept it alive. Now watch Clayton, and is Ross, a great cornerback. He's trying to knock that ball out of there. He hammers it, and Clayton struggles, gets another arm on it, and keeps it from being called incomplete. Great coordination between the two, Marino and Clayton.
Second and a little more than 4 from the 6-yard line. There's Clayton going in motion. Smith takes the toss. Inside the 5. Bowls down to the 1, and that's a first down.
Well, it appears that one man is trying to lift the Miami Dolphins, and that man is Sammy Smith. Not known as a receiver. He's coming out of the backfield, catching the ball. And the first man who's tried to tackle him here in the second half has not gotten it done. There's Sally Amua who misses. Moss misses. 3 or 4 people slide off before Derek Thomas finally brings him down. And Sammy Smith trying to inspire this team.
They are going to measure. They didn't give him quite as good a spot as they initially indicated. They bring in an extra tight end in Beatty and have Foster aligned as an eligible receiver in a tight end spot. Beatty in motion. Marino, the throw hits Page, touchdown.
We talked about Page being the checkoff man at the top of the game. Marino looked in the end zone, looked first for the tight end, looked outside for Logan. Finally, number 49, who always seems to be standing in the clear for Dan Marino. Watch Marino looking around. He spots Page finally after he sees nothing in the end zone, and Page takes it in.
Lewis Cooper, the linebacker to that side, was really caught in no man's land. He's either got to rush Marino or he's got to stay with Page. He chose to rush Marino. Dan read it and just dropped it right in for an easy 6.
Pete Stoyanovich for the point after. And so the Dolphins gamble at the end of the 3rd and beginning of the 4th. Go for it on 4th down. Smith keeps the drive going. Marino and Page get him home. The Chief lead is 6, 12-18 left.
Roll this thing, and I want you to watch both of these guys, because Cooper's going to face one heck of a decision, because right here, he's locked up. Does he continue up towards Marino, or does he fall back in coverage? He comes toward Dan. He reads it. It's an easy touchdown to Page. A beautiful call by the Dolphins. They overloaded that side. Lewis Cooper was wrong either way.
12-18 remaining. 16-10 Kansas City. Pete Stoyanovich kicking off. Fred Jones from the 5. To the 25-yard line. Paul Langford makes the tackle. So Miami moving down the field to score their first touchdown of the game. Converting on a 4th down to keep it going. 10 plays, 66 yards.
Tony Page gets the touchdown, but we'll call that the Sammy Smith drive. I've heard noise like this before at the Orange Bowl, but I don't think I ever have at Joe Robbie Stadium.
Yeah, that's what Bob Greasy said. Yeah. First down from the 25. Barry Word is in the game as the running back. The fake to Word. DeBerg comes back to the near side. Emil Harry with a great spin move and turns what would have been about a 15-yard gain into a lot more as he spun around Tim McKyer.
McKyer having a tough day. He's been beaten several times. He's been beaten a couple times when they didn't get the ball to him. That time he just flat missed the tackle, and Harry takes it deep into Miami territory. And I tell you, it's going to be rough on McKyer after the week he's had when he angered some of his own teammates with a lot of comments deriding the ability of the secondary of the Kansas City Chiefs. And watch this missed tackle. Good move by Harry, and he really flat missed it totally.
15-yard gain became a 33-yard pickup from the 43-yard line. Again, the fake. Here's McKyer on a corner blitz, and he forces DeBerg to get rid of it in a hurry.
McKyer with a quick move because wide open was Stephon Page downfield in single coverage, and no one was with Page. He had run away from his defender, and he could have taken that. He might have taken that in, but DeBerg had to get rid of it.
Big talk, if it's not followed up by big action, it's nothing but hot air. And Tim McKyer, up to this point in time, has had more talk than action.
Second down and 10 from the 42. Word picks up just a yard or two. Offerdahl and Cross make the stop. And Sammy Smith still being attended to on the Dolphin bench. Joe Pendry, the Chiefs offensive coordinator.
You got a third long, you've been saving. There's no sense saving it any longer.
3rd and 9 at the 41. Crowd on its feet. Oh! Almost intercepted. And E.J. Jr. will see that in his dreams all month.
DeBerg hit him right in the hands. The blitz was on. He checked off. Langford was coming on the blitz. DeBerg read it. Tried to get it out to McNair, and E.J. Jr. had dropped one that was right in his hands for 6. Take a look at it again. See Langford, 44. DeBerg sees it. I'm going to dump it off to McNair. That's what I ordinarily do. Jr., well, he'll never forget it.
Fourth down. Brian Barker to punt. Flag down. Fair catch at the 14. 9 remaining. In regulation, Miami trailing by a score of 16-10. E.J. Jr. on the right. Ooh, so close to the interception and a possible touchdown. Now Miami, after the punt, takes over at the 15. Sammy Smith is back in the game. Came out with sore ribs. They fake it to Smith. Marino going over the middle of Farrell Edmonds, the tight end. Edmonds to the Kansas City 48-yard line.
Good call. That's where it's been.
Well, what happens is you get the big man Edmonds locked up one-on-one. Yep, and that's really a mismatch. Rob McGovern, number 50, has got one-on-one coverage on Edmonds. First of all, Farrell Edmonds has remarkable speed for a big man. And a lot of similarities there to Mark Bavaro once he has the ball. Look out.
1st and 10 at the 49-yard line. Here is Sammy Smith for a gain of close. Knocking back, and Garrett Limbrick, who's barely played. So it's Smith and Logan, and that's it. 2nd and 5. Page makes the
calls in, and he's confronted with Page. He really doesn't have any choice. Albert got the job done, but he was a recipient more than he was a giver.
3rd and 1, 3 tight end set. Foster is an eligible receiver. It is Logan for a first down behind Tony Page.
Logan, the unprotected free agent a year ago from Cincinnati. Actually, into tonight, he was averaging better than Sammy Smith. A 4-yard average in the times that he had carried the ball. Weren't that many. He gained 317, but watch the block by number 49. Working against Chris Martin, and Logan has an easy shot at the first, taken out of bounds by Kevin Ross.
First down, Miami at the 35. That much time left. Kansas City leading 16-10. Smith back in the game, and Marino hits Duper, who gets dragged down by Hackett after a 9-yard gain to a chorus of Duper.
And what a beautiful drive in terms of its play selection. Dan Marino getting the ball all around the field. A run to Smith, a run by Page, a pass to Page. Now to Duper. A long completion down the middle to Farrell Edmonds. I mean, everybody on the offensive side of the ball for Miami has had a part in this drive.
Well, conceived play. Duper on a slant in, which they run so frequently. Took the slant in about 4 or 5 steps and broke it to the outside. He was wide open.
Logan back in the game as the tailback. 2nd and 1. Clayton in motion. Logan falls down. 4-yard loss. Back to the 30-yard line. 3rd and 4.
4 wides in now for Miami. And that also brings in
Kansas City. Edmonds came up and lined up as a tight end. The other problem, 10 people. They only had 10 people over here defensively. Wisely, they called the timeout. They were in no position to play either the formation Miami threw at them, plus they weren't willing to go one short.
3rd down, 4. Make it 5. A short 5 as Sammy Smith is the tailback. They fake it to him. Marino on a roll. Marino has the first down. Marino hits Clayton, and Clayton almost lost the first down, but knows exactly where he is on the field. Kevin Ross makes the tackle.
I think he probably had the first down. The whistle had blown. The progress had stopped, but Clayton was going to make certain he did have it. Marino again with the rollout, putting the pressure on the cornerback. And that time he gets the ball to Clayton, and up for the tackle is Kevin Ross. And Clayton's struggling. He knows exactly where he's got to place that football in case he didn't have it, and he gets the first.
1st and 10 at the 24-yard line. Smith takes it to the 17, and as the Dolphins draw down toward the end zone, maybe Marino looks for Mark Clayton. You could win $1 million in a bet if you were to say what quarterback to receiver combination in the history of this league has combined for the most touchdown passes. It's not Unitas to Berry. It's not Montana to Rice. It's not Craig to Largent. It's Dan Marino to that guy, Mark Clayton. 65 touchdown receptions by Clayton from Marino. 2nd down and 3 from the 17-yard line as Logan takes it to the 15 to set up 3rd and 1. Snow in on the stop. Page had limped off prior to the play.
And up to that play where Page come out, I mean, he has just been killing people on this drive. Every time he's called upon to either carry the ball or lead block for Sammy Smith, he has just been a terror. Right now, Garrett Limbrick is in the game as a fullback. Tony Page still on the sideline.
Two-down situation for Miami. No matter they're going to go, they have a third and short.
Smith shaken up and Page shaken up, so Limbrick and Logan are in the backfield. Beatty is in motion, and on 3rd and 1, Logan fighting and fighting and fighting for a first down.
Well, this Miami drive is doing two things. It is quite obviously advancing the Dolphins down the field, but they are just eating up the clock. We're going to move inside 4 minutes. And they are, this is just an awesome drive by the Miami Dolphins. This is some of the most physical football they have played all year.
Oh, that's a good turn up on the part of Mark Logan. He goes about 220, so he's not a little man in there replacing Sammy Smith.
This drive already just moves over the 7-minute mark in time of possession.
And this is the 11th play, 1st and 10 as Marino throws. Clayton has it, touchdown!
66. Almost an INT the other way as Albert Lewis gambled and lost. Mano mano, Clayton and Albert Lewis, two of the best to play this game. There it is, top of your screen. Lewis, 29, goes for it, misses, and Clayton with great concentration takes it in for the touchdown.
Not a bad toss either, huh?
Not bad. Outside, low.
Albert Lewis. When you have that much confidence, you feel like you can do anything at any time, but you can't.
Stojanovic. Miami leads it.
That's the good news. The touchdown, the bad news, a lot of time on the clock.
Nice spot by Secules that time.
Look once again, Clayton. I can't tell you how much concentration Clayton has got to have on this football. Remember the one he dropped earlier in the game over the middle when he was perhaps looking for somewhere to go? His eyes were riveted on this ball as it came into his hands.
Now, if you were to break down time, if you were able to dissect a second in terms of what it meant in videotape, how much time do you think was the difference between Albert Lewis touching that football and not touching that football? We're dealing in fractions of a second.
Milliseconds. Meanwhile, let's go back to the extra point here, and this is a huge extra point, obviously, with the game tied at 16. Watch Secules, the holder.
Nice handle. That's why they have the sure-handed ones out there handling the football. Lots of time left for Steve DeVerg to pull off some of his magic.
Well, it figures with
This seems strictly as a punt return man.
out of Louisville. Only once in Clayton's career has he caught a touchdown pass from anybody other than Marino. It was by Jaworski, Ron Jaworski. Kickoff taken by Fred Jones at the 1. Out to the 21-yard line. Kerry Glenn makes the tackle. And it's the first time this season, we talked at the top of the quarter, that Kansas City had not given up 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter in any one game. And, you know, it's the northern team. It's almost a cliche, but it's the northern team coming south late in the year.
It is this man right here, who earlier, when they were down, he walked up and down that bench, encouraging all of his teammates. He is a leader, a fighter, tenacious. And not so much the Kansas City defense this weekend. It's just been a real gut check on the part of the Miami offense.
First down, Kansas City from the 22, 3:18 to go. Chiefs have 2 timeouts left, plus the 2-minute warning. DeBerg throws, caught up at the 43-yard line. Stephon Page.
Oh, he is something, isn't he? He's a book looking for Dick Schaap.
Stephon Page wearing a little souvenir.
Little Miami sod. Steve DeBerg not going with play action here, just a straight drop back, and boy, that's a fabulous throw. J.B. Brown just a half step slow.
Well, will the Cinderella season for DeBerg keep on going? His team is down by a point from the 41-yard line. It's a 6-yard gain. The catch is made by Jonathan Hayes, the tight end.
We saw Marty Schottenheimer a moment ago saying, take it easy, slow down, plenty of time. And, of course, again, we've mentioned it several times today, Nick Lowry on the bench, one of the best field goal kickers in the history of the game.
And he's got the wind at his back. They're going the right direction if you need a field goal.
Christian Okoye on 2nd and 5 gets into the secondary, and Christian Okoye takes it to the 28-yard line. So they're clearly within field goal range now. The clock will tick down to the 2-minute warning. It'll be 1st and 10 for Kansas City. They have 2 timeouts remaining, and Miami has a 1-point lead.
And we have just seen 3 consecutive disastrous plays by the Miami defense.
Now look at the big semi. Turns the corner, makes a shifty move like a little scat back right here, breaks away, and gets Kansas City to within field goal range.
Today, but the situation may be the same. Miami leads by a point, 2 minutes to go. Kansas City 1st and 10 at the Dolphin 28. And Okoye bursts through the middle, takes it to the 15. There's a marker down.
Marker where you usually get the holding call.
Of what's going on here, because if Kansas City picked up the first, they'd let the clock run down and make Miami take the timeouts defensively. Now he's got to get him back in field goal range, and is lucky that Offerdahl doesn't intercept it.
Well, perhaps the taped hands. Look at the protection he has on both hands, but it hit him right in the hands. And DeBerg will never throw a worse pass than that. He threw it right into the crowd. Offendahl was back there, but also everyone was surrounding the receiver. It was an attempt to get the ball to J.J. Burton. But there are Dolphins everywhere.
2 times this quarter, Miami linebackers have dropped sure interceptions. E.J. Jr. first, and now John Offerdahl second. Kansas City still alive.
2nd and 20 from the 38. 1:48 to go. Okoye. Hugh Green knocks him down after a gain of 3 with help from Turner. His longest field goal this year is 48 yards. Right now you're looking at about a 53-yard attempt
With an injury.
3rd and 17 as they look for about 10 out of the gun. DeBerg throws incomplete, intended for McNair and broken up by Jarvis Williams.
That's where the hitting pays off. Williams smashed into McNair, jolted the ball loose, and this will be a long attempt for Lowry.
They'll talk about 2 things arriving on Todd McNair's doorstep at the same time. One was the football and one was Jarvis Williams. A brilliant play by Williams.
And Jeff Cross arriving at DeBerg simultaneously.
Yep. Watch how well it's timed there by Jarvis Williams.
We talked about Williams and his heading ability all day long, how it hindered him to some degree in the play action fake. That time it really paid off for Miami.
Lowry in his 11th season. His most pressure-packed kick ever is just short. It died right at the end, and so has Kansas City's season, as Miami is going to rally in the fourth quarter. And it's, well, for the Chiefs, the longest trip back tonight is going to be for the rookie lineman David Zock.
It was his holding penalty that moved them way back, and boy, I really sympathize with you, David. It's really a tough deal.
Terrible disappointment, but for a team that turned so much around from a year ago, and that's exactly what Marty Schottenheimer is telling Steve DeBerg right now.
I've been around a football team, or a football game rather, that has been as valiantly played and fought as this one today.
I can echo that exactly.
And Dan Marino, 15 times in his career, has led the Dolphins back from a fourth quarter deficit. He does it again today. He completes his last 10. He gets him into the end zone on the touchdown pass to Clayton, and Miami wins the trip to either Buffalo or L.A.
Don Shula wraps his arm around Marty Schottenheimer, a man he drafted back in 1965 as a Baltimore Colt head coach.
I think a good look there at the old bull and the young bull. Marty Schottenheimer is here to stay.
Don will run off the field. Marty will run off the field, or maybe Don might even walk off.
I hear you.
So close.
Nick Lowry's attempt.
17-16, Miami wins it. Kenny Wolf, Craig Janoff heading up our crew. Kelly Hayes, George Hill, Steve Hurt, and our ABC crew will reconvene at the Super Bowl in Tampa. Today in Miami, the Dolphins win it by a score of 17-16.